Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today we're doing something a little different. It's more of an educational show. I have a sister who has some severe back problems, and she has been using medicinal cannabis for a while now, and it's amazing how much it changes her life. Um, in a few months in Canada, I don't know if you know this in the States there, we're going to be making recreational cannabis legal. Right now, medicinal, where you have a prescription and you can get it, is legal. But in July 1st, I think, is going to be the first day that it's like nationwide completely legal for recreational purposes. And I think that it's time that we educate ourselves a little bit on the benefits of it. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making some marijuana infused chocolates. Basically, these are for my sister. They're for times when her back is really bothering her and she needs to basically take a little something, but she can't smoke it or vape it or whatever. Okay, now for this, we're going to need a few simple ingredients. The first thing is actual cocoa butter. Now, the cocoa butter that you're going to need to use is actual not organic. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be organic, but that's better. This is a nice organic. I got it off Amazon. Tell me why. Okay, so what you're going to need first is you're going to need some cocoa butter. Now, this is a food grade cocoa butter. It's not like cosmetics grade. It's not like salve grade. There's some cocoa butter that's just for making ointments and whatnot. This is organic, and this is food grade, okay? Now, the second thing you're going to need, now, usually, this is for my sister. She doesn't actually do a low-carb thing. So, we have cocoa powder, the best you can get, nice organic stuff. You want an equal amount of cocoa butter and cocoa powder, okay? Now, this is going to be a milk chocolate, so I have milk powder in here. Now, the milk powder is about half as much. So I have 1 pound of cocoa butter and 1 pound of cocoa powder. That means I have a half a pound of milk powder and I have a half a pound of powdered sugar. Now, this is, like I say, not a low-carb recipe. This is just a fully carved-up recipe. But if you wanted to, like, replace that sugar with something, like stevia or whatever, you can. I'm going to, like, figure out the math, and I'm going to tell you guys what to replace this with down in the comment sections, okay? Now, one trick is if you don't want grainy chocolate, you got to take these, and you got to run them through a blender or a food processor for a little bit. That way, it'll take out all the lumps and bumps, and it'll make it like a finer ground. Okay? Now, you're also going to need some vanilla and a little bit of salt. Now, if you wanted to add in some nuts or... Now, if you wanted to add in anything, I actually had these organic Trader Joe dehydrated strawberries that I made a previous batch with. That was really nice. Or if you wanted to add peanuts or almonds or basically anything that you would have in a bar, that would be absolutely fine. Now, the first thing we have to do is we have to reserve a little piece of the cocoa butter. Now, what we're going to be using this for is to temper the chocolate. When you melt cocoa butter, when you melt chocolate, there's two different types of fat, and they both have two different melting points. And when you melt them, they get all weird, and sometimes you'll get, like, you ever see that white stuff on the top of the chocolate? That's called bloom, and sometimes it doesn't melt at the right temperature. That's because the crystals in here that were in the fat, they melted together and they got all messed up. But if you take a piece and you grate it up, and then when this is melted and you let the temperature drop a little, and you throw the grated cocoa butter back in, it's called seeding, and the crystals that are in here, they start to, like, latch on to all the little crystals that are like them. And it sort of reorganizes the crystals in the chocolate so that it has that nice snap that you want. And it has that nice mouthfeel. Okay? Now, the second thing is when you melt this is a large boil of water. I brought it up to the boil. Right now, it's just barely simmering away. That's exactly where you want it. Because you do not want this to be too hot, okay?
Okay, here I'm gonna melt this for you. I'm gonna stitch.
Okay, now what we have is we have the fully melted cocoa butter, and we're going to add in our cannabis. Now, the way I have this set up is I have a pot here on a very low flame, and I also have a face cloth just so that the steam can escape. Now, we don't want this cocoa butter to get much above body temperature. Basically, 97 degrees is the melting point of the cocoa butter, and that's where we want to leave it. Now, we're going to put our cannabis in here, and we're going to keep it there for about 3 hours. Okay? So you're going to check on this fairly frequently. Okay, so just give it a little stir, make sure everything's in the oil, and we'll be back. Okay, so it has infused now for about 2 hours. I know it looks like a mess, doesn't it? What we're going to do is we're going to sieve it through some kitchen cloth. If you have cheesecloth or a fine filter, that'd be a nice way to go. Scrape her all out there. So then, once we're going to there we go, my spatula. Just give it a little squeeze, get any goodness out you can. Leave it drip for a minute. And here we go. This is some lovely, as you can see, it's still running out. We want to just basically give it a minute to run. We can squeeze it every once in a while. Now, what we did here is we removed the active ingredients that we actually wanted, but the plant matter itself is all nicely contained in here. Okay, now, at this point, you should have your molds ready. I have some plastic mold, some silicone mold, but I've also made these bar molds using some Play-Doh and a cookie sheet. So, we're just going to leave this drip for another second or two. Try to get all the good cocoa butter goodness out. Okay, now to this, we're going to need to add our cocoa and stuff. One second, let's get right to that. Okay, now, we're going to take the bit of cocoa butter that we reserved, and we're going to put it in. Now, what this is doing is this is tempering the chocolate. This is regrowing all the crystals. We just gently let it melt. Now, there's no heat on this, so it's using whatever residual heat is left in the actual cocoa butter. See, it's just melting gently. Nice and relaxed. Okay, is it melted? Nope, nope, still a little bit left. Okay, now it's about melted. To this, we're going to add a little bit of vanilla, about a teaspoon, I would say. About a teaspoon of vanilla, and about half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, and then we are going to add our cocoa powder sugar milk combination. Now this has been blended rather thoroughly to remove any lumps or bumps. Okay. Now we just stir this gently to incorporate it. Now it's very important at this point, at all points, that no water come in contact with this whatsoever. Any water comes in contact with this, it'll just mess it up. Everything will seize up, you'll get grainy, clumpy chocolate, it'll be horrible. But if we keep it liquid free, only our dry ingredients and our oils. Now you'll see how the cocoa and the sugar and everything's incorporating nicely. Beautiful, and the smell is nice. Very rich chocolatey smell. Now the cool thing about this chocolate is that you can, at this point, add anything. Like really, if you wanted to add dried fruits, nuts, Rice Krispies, anything. See how it's nice and shiny? That's what we're going with. That means that the temper worked. It's not dull, it's not clumpy, everything's dissolving nicely in it. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's working beautifully. Okay. Okay, now we're going to fill our molds. That look nice. Now, whatever molds you wanted to use, if you wanted to use silicone molds or plastic molds, whatever. It's all good. It's actually funny because what I used here is Play-Doh. Play-Doh is like one of the ultimately most non-toxic things you can imagine. Although I wouldn't necessarily eat it myself, I don't imagine it's very good. Bear with me, 3 more. Second. Scrape everything out. Waste not, want not, you know what they say. Okay, now, this step is pretty important. Okay, when you drop it like that, that does 2 things. That levels it out, and it helps remove any bubbles that are in the chocolate or whatever. Professional chocolatiers actually have like a specific shake table, a little table that vibrates and shakes. This will actually set up reasonably quickly. Okay, now we're going to leave this set. Don't put it in the fridge. There's too much humidity that could possibly form in the fridge. Okay? So just put it out somewhere cool and away from anybody. You don't want anybody getting into this. And then we'll get back to it.